Okay, so by now you're all wondering if I managed to keep my home. And the answer to that is...
You don't have to be poor anymore. Jesus is here.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, Christianity is stupid.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, not far from the redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. I'm your host, Tucker, and Professor Fuzznuts is all up in my face and on the keyboard. 'Cause he can do that for some reason. Yes, you silly little cat. What are you... Yes, I hear you. You've hit something. There, that fixed that, I think. Yes, it did. Good. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts, as you just heard, has moved away and is now bathing himself. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cat. Get over it. And this is part 2 of the news episode. So, I will stop holding you in suspenders and let you know that I did have enough to keep my landlord happy. It's not fully paid off yet, but he's not worried about booting me out of here. So I've got till the end of next month to pay the full amount. And unfortunately, I underestimated how much I was short. I thought I was only going to be about $100 short, somewhere around in that area. Turns out I had the total in my head wrong, and I'm actually 130 short. However, a listener literally just a few moments ago donated $80, so thank you, Mark. So I really appreciate that. And with luck, in a week or two, I will be getting my Patreon money, so my tab will be fully met at that point in time. We'll see. That depends on Patreon and how long it takes for them to get the money to me and those types of things. But I am, for now, safe and secure, as is Fuzznuts. I really appreciate it. I can't thank all of you enough. I don't know what I would have done without you guys and gals, so thanks. It really does mean a lot to me. I've lived here for almost 20 years now, so it's home. It's a beer can, but it's home. In November of this year, I will have lived here longer than I have lived anywhere else in my entire life. I lived in the house I grew up in. I mean, my parents moved in the month I was born, and I didn't move out of there until after I graduated high school at the age of 18. And from that point, lived with my dad for a while, then I lived in the dorm, then I got an apartment with some friends from college, and we moved from apartment to apartment every couple of years or so. And I lived with some various other friends in rental houses over the years, a couple of years each time. And it wasn't until 99 when I moved into here that I stayed in any one place longer than a couple of years. And I've been here now. This November, it'll be 18 years. It's like the 1st of November of 99 when I moved in. A little bit of mundane trivia. All right. And I had meant to post this yesterday. However, at the last minute, Heretic Woman from the Beyond the Trailer Park podcast invited me and a bunch of others to be on to help her celebrate her 100th episode. So that's what I was doing last night instead of putting this together and posting it. She was supposed to have a Nigerian preacher who was going to convert her back to Jesus in the middle of the podcast, but he failed to materialize. So she sent out a plea to anybody and everybody who would help fill some air, and you no doubt know by now I'm pretty good at filling air. And I actually did discover that I do have a listener in West Virginia when I was checking the download stats today. I don't remember if I mentioned that in the last episode or if that's going to come out today that I made a crack about West Virginia. But I've been there. I know what the state is like. So it was made from somebody who's been there and understands it and has relatives who grew up there. So, and there was only one listener, so it won't be a big damage. Maybe it didn't go out in the last episode because I haven't gotten an angry email from anybody yet. And in speaking of downloads, I just want to mention something. I apparently have at least one listener in Iceland. And I don't know why I find that just so cool. I mean, it's a hunk of rock in the North Atlantic and, outside of the geothermal heat, it's really cold there. But I just think that's really cool. The one place, and it's weird when you do things like this. It's like, why don't I have anybody from here? Is Greenland. Nobody in Greenland listens. I haven't had any downloads from there yet. That's just, it's like, it's the one spot I'd like to get a download from some reason. I don't know why, but it is. Anyways, just silliness on my part. But back to being on the Beyond the Trailer Park podcast last night. That was a lot of fun. I stayed up way too late. There were 8 or 9 of us on the show. Most of the folks I didn't know before I did the show, and one of them was the guy who's responsible for the original cover art for the podcast. When I say the original, I mean this image, but without America's picture added onto it. He just randomly messaged me out like a year or so ago and said, "Hey, do you want some better album art?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, of course I do." And he was kind enough to do it all for nothing. And I was like, "You want credit on the show?" He's like, "Nah, I just do this shit for the hell of it." So thanks to him. It's nice actually meeting him for a change. And, thanks to Heretic Woman and everybody for having me on last night. It was a lot of fun. I got to see people I hadn't seen in a while. And I won't get to see again. Well, Heretic Woman will almost certainly be at NanoCon. And I know Zandy will be at ReasonCon, and so will Heretic Woman. So that'll be when I get to see them in the flesh again. And I have to figure out who's going to babysit Fuzznuts when I go to ReasonCon, but I may have that solved. And I do have a slight bit of good news. It's one of those pieces of good news that's good, but it's not great. And that is, my ride has decided not to quit her job after all. Of course, she may change her mind tomorrow morning. But she told me Monday morning on her way to work, she's like, "Yeah, I think I'm going to stay here because I'd have to work second shift at the Gap, and I really don't want to work second shift at the Gap." Now, the reason why that's not so good is because she's a good employee, so if she quit, it would add more weight to them increasing everybody's pay. We're supposed to have a meeting about that tomorrow with the people in her department, and everybody's pretty dubious that they'll get more pay, but we'll see what happens with that. All I know is our number of employees is looking pretty thin right now. But then again, the workload isn't all that high either. I have been moved to a different area temporarily because there's no work in my area. Thankfully, it's not the really horrific job they had me doing. Because, well, if you've seen the movie Fight Club, you know the scene where Edward Norton's character's sitting there in his office on the computer with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and his boss walks in, looks at him and goes, "You can't smoke in here! Is that blood on your shirt?" And Edward Norton looks down and goes, "Yeah, your blood! Some of it." Yeah. And he yells at Norton's boss, yells at him to get the hell out of there and come back when he's cleaned himself. I would have one of those moments. Although they would actually fire me because, you can't smoke inside the facility for a number of reasons. Not the least of which is the fact that it's a health hazard because of all the medical stuff. The owner of the company apparently is anti-smoking. He's not extremely anti-smoking because he knows he'd never get any employees in the state of Tennessee if he completely banned smoking. But, because this is the beauty of the laws of living in a tobacco state. If you have a business that does not deal directly with the public, so the public can't come in and buy stuff. So it's not a bar, it's not a restaurant, it's not a gas station, or a retail outlet or anything like that. Then your employees can smoke wherever they want, saving, of course, areas around explosive materials, obviously, if you want to allow them to smoke there. So we could actually have, we could actually smoke on the shop floor if we wanted to. But, if they would allow us. But they won't, and they've built a smoking pavilion outside that's just a roof to keep the rain off and some picnic tables. It's not, it doesn't have walls which would keep the wind off, so you wouldn't freeze your dick when it was 20 degrees outside in the middle of winter, as it occasionally gets. Although not too often this past winter. Almost like that global warming was a real thing. But, so, we get 2 10-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch. And, bell goes off. We go off the off the plant floor, strip off our protective gear, hang that up, grab our coats, drinks, whatever we want for when we're on break, and go outside, all the way to the back of the building, smoke, and then we have to be back in our work area 10 minutes after the first bell goes off for break. So, you really only get a 5-minute break because it'd take you 2 minutes to get outside or so. And then it takes you like 3 minutes to put your gear back on and wash your hands. So, you don't really get much of a break. But it's all legal. And, I've worked, most of the machine shops I've worked in, you get to smoke inside. And several of them, they had custom-made ashtrays that had the company logo that they had made that, were there next to your machine. It was nice, but not really. 'Cause you get bored when you're doing some of those jobs. And, so what do? You just keep chain smoking and you light up a cigarette, you take 3 puffs of it, you set it down because you need both your hands for a couple of minutes, and then when you turn back around, your cigarette's burned all the way down or has gone out, so you gotta relight it or light a new one. And so it's better this way, I will be the first to admit, but, in some ways I kind of do miss the old days. Alright. That's enough blather for me. I don't know how long this episode will be when it's all finished, but if it comes up short, I'll be back at the end. Now here is America and I with the last of the news.
Springtime for Hitler and Germany. Winter for Poland and France.
After waves of threats on Jewish centers, ADL calls for action, and the ADL is the Anti-Defamation League. The Anti-Defamation League has again called on the Trump administration to act in light of numerous reported threats against Jewish community centers across the U.S. on Monday. The league is deeply disturbed by additional bomb threats directed against Jewish community centers in multiple states across the United States today. The fourth series of such threats since the start of the year, the group said in a statement as of Monday evening, bombing threats have been received in at least 10 Jewish community centers, including Buffalo, Birmingham, Alabama, St. Paul, Minnesota, Houston, Texas, Whitefish Bay, Wisconsin, Chicago, Nashville, Milwaukee, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. Many of the centers have since been cleared, and the ADL has deemed the reported threats non-credible. While ADL does not have any information at this time to indicate the presence of any actual bombs at any of the institutions threatened, the threats themselves are alarming, disruptive, and must always be taken seriously, the organization said. The group, however, reiterated their call for President Donald Trump and his administration to outline how they plan to deal with the issue. So this was Monday. When did Pence go to California to help with the headstones?
It was Missouri.
Missouri.
Yeah, and that was 4 days ago.
Okay. So I do wonder if part of that was because of this. But I always thought they were pretty pro-Israel and pro-Jew. I don't understand why they haven't already kind of come out and said something.
Well, Steve Bannon is anti-Jew but pro-Israel. Figure that one out.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time doing that.
Yeah, no, there is a weird subset of neo-Nazism that believes Jesus was not Jewish. And
what?
Yep. They have it's just this oddest thing. I mean, there are guys who make the argument that Jesus was Aryan. You know, Aryan as in blonde-haired, blue-eyed, not Aryan as in the Indian subgroup that the Nazis stole the name from. And their logic of how a guy living in the Middle East could be blonde-haired and blue-eyed is thin, to say the least. Especially since, like, blue is one of the least used words in the Bible.
Somebody told me it's because we didn't see blue or didn't have a concept of blue until very recently.
Well, it's not that they couldn't see it or they didn't, it's that they didn't have a concept, so they didn't have a word for it. They didn't, you didn't pay attention to the color of the sky when there weren't any clouds in there because that meant, you're getting sun, which is what you want for your plants to grow. You paid attention to like storm clouds and stuff like that, because they either meant you're getting rain you needed or you were going to get a really bad storm and you better do something. But they've done studies because there are, various tribes in like the Amazon that don't have words for certain colors, and they've, shown them, things that are this color, like they don't have the word for orange or blue. And they'll show them something that's orange or blue, and because of the way they set the experiment up, they can tell that, yes, this person can actually see the color, they just don't have a word for it. And apparently it gets really interesting asking them, well, what color is it? And they're, and they pick something that, that's a color that these people aren't going to see in their native environment. And so they're, so they can't say, well, it's blue, or it's the same color as the sky. They have to say, I don't know. So it's like trying to describe color to a blind person. Only in this case, everybody can see the color. They're just trying to get a word for it.
Huh. That's amazing. Because you always assume... I mean, I guess purple wouldn't be something that appears a whole lot naturally. But like blue, brown, black, gray, green, red, orange, yellow. Yeah, probably only, like purples and violets, maybe pink. Unless you saw a bird, but the only natural bird that I can think of that's pink is the flamingo. So you'd have to live somewhere. And I'm thinking of pink as in like the baby pink rather than like a neon pink, because there are lots of flowers that are pink, but it's sort of a magenta neon color. Anyway, I would think blue, definitely like blue and black and green would be the first things we would have words for. Or maybe blue, black, and brown.
Yeah, you would think, but that's not how it works. Well, it's like, the Inuit have 40 different words for snow. I mean, that's not exactly correct, but, they have a larger vocabulary for describing snow than English speakers do. And that's
right,
because they live in a climate where snow is the most common thing for 9 months out of the year or however long it's there. But I know the Jewish Center in Nashville is at least one of there's a couple in Nashville. A friend of mine lives down the street from one, and there's another one not too far from where a lot of things on West End that I used to go to when I was in college that were located. And the one that was on West End in Nashville was always getting vandalized, it seemed like. I mean, people painting swastikas, Star of Davids on it, trashing stuff. So I don't know about bomb threats, so this isn't necessarily something new in the case of Nashville, unless it's been rare that they've gotten bomb threats. But I know they've been vandalized a number of times. And so has the mosque in Nashville. There's a large mosque in Nashville. It's down the street from where I used to work, and they had gotten vandalized a bunch of times. The last time it happened, they arrested the guy like a day or so later, I think, and he immediately confessed to everything, said he was just so drunk he didn't remember what he had done. Not that it excuses it, but that gives you an insight into his mentality.
I've been super drunk, Tucker, and I have done a lot of dumb things. No, that is never a reason. I hate when people are like, well, I was intoxicated. No.
Yeah, I know. Most of my posts on Facebook are drunk.
Really? I didn't know that. Now they're going to be even funnier to me, Tucker.
Yeah, if it's in the evening, I've probably had a drink or two before I posted it, whatever it is.
I love it. I will go back to drunk posting in May when I'm done with the stupid CrossFit thing.
Anyways, let's get back to the stories. Our next one ties directly into that. Pence and Missouri governor join cleanup at vandalized Jewish cemetery. Vice President Mike Pence and Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, I don't know how you pronounce his name, on Wednesday added their voices and cleanup skills to those condemning the vandalizing of a Jewish cemetery in a St. Louis suburb. The two men visited the Chesed Shell Emeth Society Cemetery in University City, where at least 170 headstones were toppled and damaged. Greitens said President Donald Trump called him Wednesday morning to thank the people of Missouri for standing up in the fight against anti-Semitism. I find that hard to believe. And I know that Pence, this was just a photo op, because if you look at the pictures, Pence is there in a suit and tie.
I know!
You're not doing a lot of cleanup, but at least he had the decency to put in an appearance, whereas Trump didn't. And Trump did, let's see here. on Holocaust Remembrance Day, they somehow managed to not mention the Jews when talking about the Holocaust.
I know! And I was really upset at people who said, well, others died in the Holocaust too. And I was like, right. And they should also be remembered. But do not think that it was not intentional to forget the Jews when discussing the Holocaust. That's bullshit. You talk about everybody.
Yeah, so that's it. But, you know, I think that Pence is somewhat uneasy because I know he and the other established leaders in the administration, in other words, not guys like Bannon and whoever that White House spokesman is that gave the white power gestures when he was talking, or Spicer.
No, it wasn't Spicer. It was a new guy that showed up.
Yeah. No, but I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about, you know, guys like Pence, Priebus, Mattingly, and others. You know, that when they've talked to foreign groups, they've always been very careful to say that they disagree with Trump on certain issues, and that Trump is doing things different than what he says he's doing, but because he is unable to articulate himself properly, it sounds like he's off his rocker. So they're covering for him and trying to smooth things over, but of course they're enabling him. Whereas they ought to just come forward and say, no, he's batshit crazy. We're sorry we elected him, and we're just holding this job down to try to limit the damage, and we're hoping to get him out of here in 4 years. But they won't. They'll never say that because they can't admit that to themselves. But at least Pence showed up at this event, to say something, even if he didn't really do any serious work. I mean, they showed him carrying a few twigs and stuff like that, but so he wasn't seriously helping in the cleanup, but at least he made an appearance, which is more than you can say for Trump. And the other nice thing is that the most of the money all the money raised for the cleanup was done so by an Islamic organization. And there have been a couple of cases where synagogues in the States have been vandalized or damaged, and mosques have immediately offered their facilities to the congregation of the synagogue. So I think that's a really nice gesture that shows that, hey, even though these people do subscribe to foolish beliefs, they can at least be decent human beings.
I mean, at least pretending to be decent human beings.
Yeah. Okay, you want to take the next story? We were talking about decent human beings.
Yay! Teen suicide attempts fell as same-sex marriage became legal. Teen suicide attempts in the United States declined after same-sex marriage became legal, and the biggest impact was among gay, lesbian, and bisexual kids, a study found. The research found declines in states that passed laws allowing gays to marry before the Supreme Court made it legal nationwide. The results don't prove that there's a connection, but researchers said policymakers should be aware of the measure's potential benefits for youth mental health. Suicide is the second leading cause of death of all U.S. teens. Suicidal behavior is much more common among gay, lesbian, and bisexual kids and adults. About 29% of these teens in the study reportedly attempted suicide, compared with just 6% of straight teens. Laws that have the greatest impact on gay adults may make gay kids feel more hopeful for the future, said lead author Julia Rafem, a researcher at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. The measure also could create more tolerance and less bullying, making these teens feel less stigmatized. These efforts could also benefit straight teens, but more research is needed to determine how the laws might influence teen behavior, Rafem said. The study was published Monday in JAMA Pediatrics, the Journal of American Medicine.
Yeah, so that's, a simple thing like legalizing gay marriage, which I realized wasn't all that simple to accomplish, has saved, who knows how many lives.
I'm so happy. We don't want gay kids killing themselves.
We don't want anybody killing themselves, I mean, assisted suicide is fine for somebody who's got a terminal illness or something like that, but, somebody killing themselves over depression is not a good thing. And, it's just amazing that we've seen, because it's only been, 2 years? Not even 2 years since it was legalized across the country, and we've already seen a drop in teen suicides. So that's just amazing. Again, correlation is not causation, but that wouldn't... Exactly what they said wouldn't surprise me. The idea that, when you make regressive policies and you are a teenager who is gay and perhaps already lives in an incredibly regressive, horrible area, you think that you're never going to get out of this. What you're experiencing now as a teenager is always going to continue.
Yeah.
Especially if you are poor and don't perhaps have resources to leave home. I mean, being gay in small town West Virginia and perhaps you don't have the academic grades to go to a college somewhere else, you could think you're going to have to be gay in West Virginia for the rest of your life. Which I can't see as being easy.
No. Well, just being in West Virginia is bad enough. I don't have any listeners there. I don't care.
I was going to say, I'm sure they won't. I mean, they've got to know. I'm not from Arizona, but I'm loving Arizona enough to like call it my home state. And I get that our state is ridiculous and horrible. And I have no shame in admitting that.
No, it's the people who've never been beyond the borders of their state who tend to think that it's somehow the greatest thing in the world. Next story comes from the Washington Post. Republican lawmaker who won't hold a town hall invokes Gabby Gifford's shooting. She responds, "Have some courage." I would like to think she said, "Grow a pair of balls, you chicken shit," but apparently not. As Republican lawmakers across the country have faced raucous, chaotic town halls in recent days, a number have refused to have these events, including Marsha Blackburn, Diane Black, to name a couple in my state, as Bob Corker, Lamar Alexander, to name two others. Some have cited safety as a reason, while others said they didn't want their events hijacked by the confrontation seen elsewhere. Representative Louis Gohmert, Republican of Texas, who's an idiot, in a statement released this week, blamed his decision not to hold these events in person on the threat of violence at town hall meetings. He also pointed to a specific violent event to bolster his case, invoking the 2011 shooting that severely injured Representative Gabrielle Giffords, Democrat of Arizona, and killed 6 others, which that has been the only instance where somebody has been shot at one of these things, if I'm not mistaken. The former Congresswoman responded Thursday, and she made clear that she does not agree with lawmakers shying away from meeting with members of the public. To the politicians who have abandoned their civic obligations, I say this: have some courage. Gifford said in a statement, face your constituents, hold town halls. And I saw somewhere that she said, I was shot on Saturday, my office was open on Monday.
Yeah. An amazing woman who was treated at our hospital and still, is open in the community and goes to events, and she's fucking incredible.
And she's married to a NASA astronaut.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was, he flew on the shuttle. I don't remember, which missions he flew on, but he flew before she was shot, and I believe he flew one mission after she was out of the hospital, and then he, retired from NASA. But it's a second marriage for both of them, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they've been married for a number of years. Yeah, he flew after. I know he flew after she was shot because they moved him off the mission he was planned for because he had to help her as she recuperated. And then after she was able to take care of herself, he trained for another mission and went up. So, but yeah, she's a pretty remarkable woman. And, that's out of hundreds, thousands of town hall meetings. If that's the only one, the odds of you getting shot are pretty damn low.
It's an excuse, and I love that she called him out for it. And Louis Gohmert is just an asshat redneck. Oh my! He's the stereotype of the Texaner that I hate.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie Full Metal Jacket?
No.
Okay, it's a Vietnam War movie, and the first half of the movie is the bunch of guys going through boot camp, and then the second half is their experiences in Vietnam. And in boot camp, one of the drill sergeant, it's like their first day there, and he's asking where everybody's from, and one guy says he was from Texas, and the drill sergeant looks at him and goes, "Texas, huh? The only thing ever come from Texas is steers and queers, and I don't see no horns on you, son." I've always wanted to say that to Louis Gohmert.
That would be amazing. Although we'd have to be in a situation in which we would have to hear Louis Gohmert speak.
Yeah, which is painful, regardless of what he's saying. It's still painful, because he can't talk like this.
Oh my God, I hate it. Oh my God.
Well, that and about them hiding, a lot of people have started doing really cool things because there was some congressman who said, "Oh, well, something's come up. I got to cancel my town hall," and then it turned out that no, he hadn't actually done that. He just announced it and then sent messages to certain people saying, "No, it's still on. We're going to be holding it there." And some folks showed up just to protest, even though they knew he wasn't going to be there, and saw him going in and said, "Oh, we've been lied to." So now what people are doing is they're holding alternative town hall meetings.
What?
Yeah, so they go to where, the politician says they're going to be holding their town hall, but it has canceled it. And they're showing up with all kinds of, they've got all kinds of protesters and things like that, and they set up a cardboard cutout or an empty chair of of the congressman, and they're barraging them with questions and getting their pictures taken with them and posting it on Facebook. And it's funny because, at least so far, in a lot of the instances where they've been holding these alternative town halls, the actual congressperson has shown up because they, again, were lying to everybody and saying we're not having a town hall, but, it's sent out messages to their donors saying, "Oh no, we're having the town hall, but we're only letting certain people in, or we're just saying we're not having one." So, they're all... So
that they don't have to get called out on their bullshit or face big crowd. Those assholes. Oh my God.
Yeah, they're running scared, which is good. And I mean, it's good in a way and it's bad in a way. It's good because they can see that people are angry with them. It's bad because their reaction may not be to change their behavior. They may continue to do really bad shit and just say, "Oh, well, these are paid." Like, a lot of them are claiming that all the folks you see are paid protesters, and that George Soros is paying people $1,500 a week to, be a protester. I'm like, sign me up.
Right. Where do we get this career?
Yeah.
would work if all you had to do was get paid to protest.
And I don't care what it is. You know, if you're paying me $1,500 a week, I'll protest on behalf of anything. You want to kill puppies and you're going to pay me $1,500 a week to stand out in front of City Hall holding a sign saying, "Let me kill puppies"? I'll do it for that kind of money.
Right.
I have no shame. I mean, that's, you know, that's $78,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could live on that. I would have no problem. I mean, that's...
I would quit my job, which pays me very well, but that pays more than I make now.
Yeah, that's nearly 3 times what I make, so I'll take it.
Tucker, we're in the wrong business if people are getting paid to protest.
I'm telling you.
And paid big money, too.
Yeah. But, of course, they have no evidence for this. They just, you know, pull the shit out of their ass. But they're finding out that as people realize that Obamacare and the ACA are the same thing, they're getting screwed. And it's like, well, you guys should have paid attention.
There was random aside, but there was an article today, and it's sort of sad about like another Trump supporter who voted and was like, I don't understand, you know, they said they were going to do these things, and I knew that ahead of time, and I voted for them anyway, and then they did the things, and now my life sucks. And I just think, you know, you heard him say the things.
Yeah. But it's like Caitlyn Jenner was so in favor of Trump, and now she's like, wait, you're doing the things that you said you would do. This is terrible. We must talk. You can't do these things. It's like,
right.
You know, I mean, I know a number of people in the trans community who were livid over Caitlyn Jenner and her continued support of the, Republicans. And, I mean, several of these people, when I met them before they began the process of transitioning, or even admitted that they were trans, and they were all just hard as nails, right-wing Republicans. You know, they tended to be atheists, but they were most definitely, you know, right-wing Republicans who, you know, thought W was a liberal stooge. That's how, you know, right-wing these people were. And then when they came out and confessed they were trans, and they, you know, started the process of transitioning, even if it was just, you know, living the life, you know, their life as the gender they felt they should be, and not actually taking the hormone therapy or having the surgical procedures. You know, in the beginning they were still hard-bitten Republicans, but they gradually walked away from it because they realized the party hates me. It, you know, whatever I may agree with the party on doesn't matter because they hate me. They want to see me dead. But
some people still overlook that, and they're like, yeah, let me totally vote Republican. I don't get it, Tucker. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
It's cognitive dissonance.
Which is a great podcast, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else. You got anything else you want to gab about?
No, not really.
Okay. I have to be going here because I've got to get this edited and posted, and I've got to go to the Democratic Party's book club meeting here in a couple hours. I am trying to be more active to get them to do stuff because we're with Trump and his cronies wrecking the government. We're going to need all the help we can get at fixing things.
Oh yeah.
And this is me just popping here at the end to cover a few things I forgot to mention in the beginning. One of which is that, in case you didn't hear the previous recording, both America and I were having to record this at an unusual time, so we were both a little tired and kind of loopy. I had to do some weird edits because we just got on these weird discussions about all kinds of things that weren't necessarily related. The other thing is, two things. With the whole deal about me losing my house, possibly forgot all about doing the Patreon episodes. So I will get 2 out for everybody in March. Get 2 out for the Patreon listeners in March. So to make up for it. And to Vernon, thing I was going to try to do so you could listen in on while we record didn't work the time I tried it. I'm going to look at some other methods and see what I can figure out. I've done it before with somebody and I don't remember how I did it. Of course, they've changed everything with the software, to make it confusing for you. But the one last thing I will mention, and then I'm going to shuffle out of here because it's getting late and I got to get to bed. Facebook, maybe I've mentioned this or not, I don't know, is doing this new thing with certain people, and I'm in their beta channel, where somebody replies to a post I've made, and I get a pop-up about it. And I've complained 3 times to Facebook, and they now have just, anytime I make a complaint, they say, they just basically said, we don't give a fuck what you think. We're not even going to listen to you. We're shutting you off from the complaint channel that we have. So I've started a Facebook page, which is called, as soon as I can pull it up here, because they make it hard to find this shit, so they can say, oh, we've got more, interaction time, whatever, engagement time. That's what it's called. Anyways, the page that I created is called These Pop-Ups Need to Die. And the URL for that, if you want to like it, is facebook.com/popups are bad, you idiots. I'll have a link to it in the show notes, which will go up tomorrow because it's past my bedtime, so I got to get going to bed. But I just want to mention that since I can't, they won't listen to me, so I can kill they think it's a good idea and they won't globally kill them. I'm just doing whatever I can to try to get attention to it, so maybe they'll stop doing it. But yeah, like the page and share it, because I am so tired of it. And speaking of tired, I am very tired, so I'm going to get out of here. And guest for the next episode will be, if all goes according to plan, Joe from the Unbuckling the Bible Belt podcast. Maybe we'll get the Wisdom of Solomon knocked out this week. Maybe not.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TN Tucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fosnuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.